Hello and welcome to another edition of the County Council Countdown. It is going to be a busy day for us. We have two meetings here. Also, things may look a little different. I'm here with Mr. Matt Golden, one of our other wonderful production and on-air specialists here at BCTV. So thank you, Matt, for taking the time to join us.
Always a good time to be on BCTV, Chloe.
So the first meeting we have today is the Public Facilities and Safety Committee meeting. It was originally scheduled for 3 o'clock, but it did get moved up to 2:30 because there are a lot of things that we're going to be covering today. So to kick things off, a couple of agenda items. The 2018 one cent transportation sales tax is going to be having an update, as well as an update on the Hilton Head Island terminal project. And then there's going to be a lot of different recommendations to council. So the first one is going to be a recommendation approval to council of change order 1 for HXE terminal improvements phase 1 in the amount of $3,367 to the existing contract with current value of $30,000. So there's going to be a lot of different things being recommended today involving a lot of money, so that's why they had to push it up, because a lot of these things are, sensitive and want to make sure that the council has enough time to really discuss and go over everything that they need to do. Like I said, it looks like 23 things on the docket today, so I'm not going to have time to go through every single one of those, but following this meeting at 5 o'clock, there is a special called county council meeting, and I will let Matt tell you a little bit more about that. It doesn't seem as heavy as the public facilities and safety meeting.
Yeah, so with the special called county council meeting, there's going to be a second reading of an ordinance appropriating funds from the state tax as recommended by the state tax committee in compliance with the requirements of South Carolina Code of Laws. Also, probably the big thing on that, it's not a very long agenda, but there is an executive session. So we don't really know how that can go. Sometimes those are very short. Sometimes they can take a while. So will be interesting just to see, but definitely not a very lengthy agenda, but should be a lot of important stuff discussed. Always great stuff going on. We've always got great stuff here on BCTV. We'll talk about some of the great events coming up this week in Beaufort County. I do want to say, Friday night we had the May River Bluffton game, and a classic double overtime game, and it was right here. Make sure to take a look, because you can catch a lot of great high school sports on BCTV in a partnership with Beaufort's own. It's just a great way. We got basketball season coming up. A lot of different good stuff with that as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. We've been able to start doing things like that. I know that's something newer we've started this year, and we're always looking to grow and expand, and supporting the local sports is something we're always wanting to do. So moving on to some announcements. 2024 annual tax bills have been mailed out, and our offices are going to be receiving higher than usual call volumes, so our phones might be a little busy, and a limited number of calls are going to be allowed in the phone system. So if your call goes unanswered, don't worry. You also might be experiencing some hold times, and we just want to go ahead and apologize for any inconvenience that this causes anyone, and we want to encourage residents to continue to visit our websites and to ensure all of your questions get answered. You can find them on the Beaufort County Assessor's website, as well as the County Auditor's website. So, like we said, we do want to go ahead and apologize for that.
And Beaufort County is pleased to announce that Pinky Harriet has been appointed as Chief Financial Officer effective on November 25th, so that will be effective next Monday. Beaufort County Administrator Michael Moore expresses enthusiasm for her arrival, stating that we are eager to welcome Miss Harriet as our next CFO. She brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, along with an impressive record of community service. She is a Beaufort, South Carolina native, grew up over on St. Helena Island, and a graduate of Beaufort High. She earned a BS in Business Administration with a focus in finance and management as a certified government finance officer over the last 14 years. She has experience in governmental accounting and finance across the state and local government agencies. She's coming to us from USC Beaufort, where she oversees the annual budget and ensures compliance with fiscal policies. So just a great person to have on board. I got to meet her last week, and she just very friendly. I'm excited to have her on the team, and I think we are all excited about that.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are, and she sounds like she's going to be a great fit. So congratulations goes out to Ms. Harriet. Um, Another announcement. So we know the holidays are coming up. We have a lot of exciting Christmas events to look forward to. I don't know if this is directly related to Christmas, but I know this Saturday BCTV is going to be live streaming the Lantern Parade on Hilton Head Island. I've never experienced anything like that before, so I'm kind of excited to get out there and check it out. And today, Beaufort County announced that their annual Christmas tree lighting is going to be on December 13th. So all families and friends are welcome to come out to that. There's going to be food, correct, and it's also going to be live streamed on BCTV.
Yeah, that's a great event that we do every year. Last year was my first time getting to do it, and it's a great time. There's food trucks, some of our favorite, Mother Smoking Good, one that everybody loves. I know they were there last year at least. Along with at the end, there's Santa Claus coming, so it's a great time if you got the kids to come out and see Santa and Mrs. Claus ride in on the train. I know there will probably be some local school bands and such playing in it, but it's just a great way to kick off the holiday season and just a fun event. So absolutely come out. It's free. Obviously the food costs, but the just to come out is free, and it's a really good time for community around the holidays.
Yes, so definitely looking forward to it. Another announcement, Nexus Care of Beaufort County and the All Aboard Beaufort Coalition are partnering to host another Youth Leadership STAR program. It's going to be open to all 6th through 12th graders in Beaufort County. A little bit more about the STAR program. They help students strive to achieve resiliency against alcohol and substance misuse. Meetings are held on the third Thursday of every month, and it's going to be held at the St. Helena Branch Library at 6355 Jonathan Francis Senior Road. Each session offers a unique standalone message that provides value on its own, so attendance is encouraged, even if not every single meeting is possible. Each session builds upon the last, and the core message is always accessible to everyone, regardless if you had any prior attendance. So it's an opportunity for you to come out and make friends, be creative, learn some new leadership skills. The goal of the program is to work together to reduce youth substance misuse and promote resiliency. There's going to be supplies and food. And if you want to register, go to Jody Martinez at jody.martinez@bcgov.net, or you can always call Nexus Care Beaufort County at 843-255-6001.
And Chloe, I think that is about all the time we have. It's getting close to meeting time here, so we will wrap up. But we thank you so much for joining us on Council Countdown today. I really got to enjoy doing my first Council Countdown. This is a great experience, and stay tuned for the great meeting and the other one we have this evening.
Yes, thank you for hopping in here, Matt. Goodbye.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming to the Public Facilities and Safety Committee. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 2:30 on November 18th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. Can I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Tab and Mr. Dawson, thank you. Any objection? Agenda will be approved with no objection. Approval of the minutes from October 21st, 2024.
So move.
I'll second
Thank you,
it.
Mr. Dawson and Tab again.
This
Thank you
end
very
is doing good down here.
We've got to hold it together as a unit. This will be approved with no objection as well.
Yeah.
And I see no objection, and we will jump right into citizens' comments. We have three. I believe it's Alexander, first one. Hi, how are you? And they're going to put 3 minutes on the clock for you, but we should have plenty of time, so.
All right, I appreciate it. So my name is Alexander Michael. I'm an employee at Hilton Head Island Airport. Now I'm here to talk to you today about the resolution to adopt the Hilton Head Island Airport Wildlife Management Policy. So according to this policy, it states effective immediately, feeding any animals, including birds, rodents, or stray feral animals, pets, is strictly prohibited on the airport boundaries and surrounding areas. So I'd like to give you guys a little bit of context regarding that. So no one at the airport is feeding rodents, squirrels, birds, or anything like that. But they are feeding this cat. This cat has a name. His name is Friday. It is part of a feral cat colony that exists on that airport for the last 2 decades. All right? So the local community, the local church, the airport employees, the travelers have been feeding Friday essentially every single day for the last 20 years. All right? Well, not necessarily her, but the colony for the last 20 years, right? So this policy directly impacts that ability to do that. No one's feeding any of their animals. They're feeding that cat. And we've been doing it in a struggle with the airport administration for months. Craig Weber, the head of security of the airport administration, has threatened airport employees to remove their security access and therefore their jobs for feeding this cat. Multiple times, the assistant director of the airport, Steve Perry, has mentioned to airport staff how much, if it was up to him, he'd shoot them all. The reality is, this policy is not directed towards animals like squirrels, birds, reptiles. It's directed towards this cat and will be used as a cudgel to prevent us, the church, the community, the travelers, from feeding this cat, from sheltering this cat. There are permanent shelters built in the overflow cell phone parking lot on the airport for this cat. They've been there for decades. All right, so I ask you, please, to not pass this policy. This policy, of course, also says that's to comply with airport regulation or aviation regulations. Now, here's the applicable aviation regulation. The only thing it mandates is that there's a hazardous wildlife assessment be done. That's it. All right? It does not mandate anything beyond that. Now, I do not know if a hazardous wildlife assessment has been done. It has not been shared with me. It has not been made public to my knowledge. Now, if that has been done, and the hazardous wildlife assessment by the FAA says it must be done, this cat must be removed, then I'm fine with that. But until that assessment is done, the council should hold off on passing this policy for further review. Thank you for your time, and God bless this United States. Absolutely, sir.
While he's getting those, move on to the next one. I think it's Diana or Dina? Dinah? Thank you. I'm sorry about that.
All right, so I'm here also to speak on behalf of Friday. So I have been at the airport for just barely 6 years. So I'm just going to read this. I really wasn't expecting to speak, so bear with me. I might be kind of all over the map. Thanks for letting us speak today. We just wanted to be heard and not talked at with anger and threatening letters to take away our badges. which would get us ultimately fired for feeding this cat. We're here also because there's some major conflicting issues with this situation. First, our employees in particular that have been at the airport for 20-ish years, one's 22, one is 19 and a half, they both agree with us when we say that we have never seen a cat in or around the airport on the back or where the airplanes are behind us. I can't say on the runway or behind it because we are not there. But I can tell you we have never seen a cat back there. And if we did, it would be the first thing on our agenda to make sure everybody's safe, so we would be speaking out. We see squirrels, frogs, birds, and rats, of course. Now, in the parking lot out front, we see huge raccoons, snakes, including copperheads. Once we saw a gator in the back cell lot. No one cared about that. That's another reason why we all hate parking in that lot. It is dark and we don't know what's back there. Then we have Friday, who's also been there his whole life. Friday has become our airport emotional support cat. We work in a very toxic emotional and physical environment. He has been bringing smiles to us for the past few years, and it's never been an issue until lately. He doesn't bother the passengers. He doesn't sit on their cars. He doesn't even go get food from them on his own. He's still killing rodents for the airport. Just 4 weeks ago, I have a picture with him with a rat, or not a rat, a squirrel and a snake. So he's still killing rodents for the airport. Just a month ago, that was. Now, I don't mean any disrespect to John, but he says this is about safety and wellness for the passengers in the safe. But we work in a rat infestation every day, and that doesn't bother him. Now, it's not exaggerating. We hear it. We see the droppings in our break room. We've watched them walk along the trap. We've had to clean out the traps. We've seen them climb down the roads right next the walls, right next to the passengers. This isn't an issue. But now, all of a sudden, we have an issue with us feeding our cat. And this is a petition that everybody got together just yesterday from everybody, and there's 48 signatures from just us staff that want to keep our cat. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, we have one more. I believe it's Felice.
Good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
I want to talk about the sales tax, but I can't resist Friday. For 30 years of living in this county, I have been a cat rescuer and a colony feeder. And I can't tell you how much good those animals do where they live. They got rats because they don't have enough cats. My exterminator tells me you got cats, you're not going to have rats. So everything you're doing, please keep doing it. That cat deserves to stay there. And I'll say one last thing about it, because your first thing, coming to mind, you're probably going to say, relocate the cat. That's easier said than done. When you relocate feral cats, they oftentimes die because they're out of their environment. They don't know where to go to find food, and it's Alley Cat Rescue data, if you read it. A feral cat cannot catch enough food in one day, in 1 year, to keep them alive. So please consider what they're saying seriously. Okay, 1% sales tax. Couldn't say this to you guys last council meeting because I was 2 hours late. And it wasn't the bridge, and it wasn't the 278 corridor. It was Bluffton. It is full of traffic, red lights that aren't synced, cars coming and going in every direction, and then you try to get off at 170, there's an accident at Riverbend. Forget it. I tried to go up to New River and come back, so was everybody else smart. Still took me 2 hours to get here. So I didn't give you these comments. I'm only going to give you a few of them at the risk of making you upset and you upset. Okay?
Don't you worry about it. You go for it. It's all good.
This time you may not like me.
It's all right.
Okay. I haven't looked at every precinct and done my analysis, which I like to do. But in the first perusal, looking at precincts, most of your constituents didn't want the referendum. Most of them voted against it. Yours did not, okay?
Correct.
We have our reasons, and I'm not going to go into them because the clock is ticking and I know you want me to sit down. But my recommendation, as you consider going forward, because I know you're not going to let it drop, I know this council, okay? You're going to find a way to do something to us. Do it to Hilton Head. I'm a citizen of Hilton Head. I live on Hilton Head. If I want the damn bridge, make me pay for it.
Wow.
Raise my taxes, okay? You'll find how many people in Hilton Head really didn't want the corridor, really wanted the bridge repaired, not the Golden Gate Bridge. With that, I'll be talking to you another time. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know what part of that was going to upset me. You're good.
I'm a little speechless on that one.
I think you and I actually are on the same boat.
Yeah, we're with you.
All right. Is there anybody else that didn't get a chance to sign up that would like to speak on one of the agenda items or anything else for this committee? All right. With that, we will close the citizens' comment period and move on to number 7, the Assistant County Administrator Report. I believe, yep, Jared's got that today.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chairman and Committee. I have 2 updates, and then John Robinson has an update for you as well. So my first update is SC 170 and 278, that short-term project that we have, that is nearing completion. Hopefully you've driven in that area, and hopefully you've seen some improvements.
Can I clap for you?
Not just for me, but everybody that's worked on it. So
Yes.
that project is a special project. Even though we call it a short-term project, it will provide some immediate and longer-term benefit. But it was a project put together between Beaufort County, Jasper County, City of Hardeeville, and SCDOT. So there was 4 stakeholders, and Beaufort County CTC Chairman Craig Gordon helped facilitate that. So a lot of good interagency and intergovernment working to establish that project. A couple updates on that. So there is final concrete pour for some additional median work planned hopefully this weekend, weather dependent. And then beyond that, just final painting and seeding to finish that project up with an expected completion date in the middle of December. There are 2 overhead signs that are planned as part of the project. They are, as you can expect, on back order. There will be one on SC 170 telling you to get into the right-hand lane if you're trying to go to Hilton Head. So that'll be better signage. And then one on 278 telling you there are 2 exits getting off onto the ramp to 170 North. So those 2 overhead signs will be forthcoming. We're working with the contractor now to facilitate some temporary signage between now and then to help motorists know what lane they need to be in to get to where they're trying to head to. Second update I have for you is everything Helene. So just as everything that we have going on so that you're fully informed as well as the public. So there's 2 components to it. So FEMA has a public assistant component, and then it has an individual assistance component. First, I'm going to talk about the public assistance. So we were not initially approved, public assistance, so county government and municipalities were not initially approved for public assistance. However, through continued coordination with FEMA and our South Carolina EMD, Emergency Management Department, through our Beaufort County Disaster Recovery, Matt Krause, manager, we've been successful at appealing to them and making the petition and seeking approval and have gained approval on November 8th. For public assistance to be provided. The main project that brought that over the hump was Hilton Head. They have a $2 million beach renourishment repair project as a result of the storm that helped get us over the threshold. Beaufort County will be seeking reimbursement for disposal. We have some disposal of debris still left at Pinckney Colony. That was our temporary staging. as well as some debris that we'll be hauling off onto Fusky Island. So in addition to that, as to Fusky Island, we are working starting this week on a one-time debris removal effort there on the island. Some additional press release will be made and sent out directly to the islanders so that they know to bring their trash to the street for that to take place. As far as the individual assistance, a couple of updates, and I'll try to my best to, you think DOT and roads are bad with their acronyms, I think FEMA has us beat. So I'll try to make sure I speak to all the acronyms, but they have, FEMA itself as an organization has a lot of different moving parts. And because the individual assistance was approved immediately as part of the storm, they have different components of FEMA that have moved into the area that are doing different things, and I'll try my best to describe that. So first is the Disaster Recovery Center, the DRC. So they opened up in the area at Burton Wells about 2 weeks ago, and they spent about 3 days here and had about 40 visitors a day. And what basically is the same information if you go on to FEMA.org or their app and download that, and you're seeking individual assistance, either your roof or your power was out or groceries or your freezer went out. Those are the ways, but they were here in person to help facilitate that. They most recently came again because of the interest level, came again from last week from November 10th, Sunday, November 10th through the 13th. There was not as many people that came, only about 10 people a day came, but there was a need and they met that need. So we're thankful for them coming. They were bouncing around all the way from Florida to North Carolina. So we had a couple of days in between there. Secondly, what they're doing as continued assistance, they have a separate component of FEMA called Disaster Survivor Assistance. So it's basically boots on the ground to the Disaster Recovery Center. So they're actually going out seeking folks that are in need of assistance, door knocking and asking if they've had damage, and if so, we can help you facilitate seeking help. They have a mobile communication operation vehicle, MCOV. So they have that vehicle basically helps them tie into the mothership and helps get direct assistance. Same assistance that you would get if you went online, but again, trying to reach all parts of the county. We have 2 crews currently scattered throughout the county that that FEMA has out and about. And one of the things they did ask is for assistance in any unique populations. So we have guided them to the Gullah community that we have, vibrant community throughout the county, and trying to focus some efforts there that they can make sure that that need is met throughout. So we're putting them in touch with community leaders so that they can have that interaction. And then lastly, separate from FEMA, but as part of the individual assistance, is the Small Business Authority. So SBA, they have a portable loan outreach center that was deployed at the office of the Black Chamber of Commerce on Wednesday, November 6th until Thursday, November 14th. So last week, that whole last week, it was out and available. There was press releases. This is more of a update and a tell you the things that have happened. So that has happened. I'm not sure the interest that they sought or that they had through their office during their period of operation, but multiple streams of resources that are in, some continuing in the area for impacts from Hurricane Helene. So with that, that is my update, sir.
Thank you, Jared.
And I
Mr.
believe,
Chairman, can I ask Jared a question?
Of course.
Jared, with Helene, I get all that's going on with public assistance and FEMA. Prior to that was Debbie, the storm Debbie, right? And you, Mr. Moore, and our colleagues in engineering, we visited there, and the whole family was displaced. Is there any tie-in that we're doing or working on to get this type of assistance because of Debbie? Because that's sort of a little bit of a stumbling block right now.
yeah, so it's all, I'll have to go back and ask our disaster recovery with Matt on whether you're named or not. I know in Debbie we did not meet the public assistant threshold.
Right.
I can't recall. I have to ask Matt if we met the individual assistance. And then that's the level of assistance. So these same groups that are out and about, they're specifically for Helene, but it's the same type of, it's the same information that you would get online or through the app. So if we did get an individual assistance, and I can't recall, but I'll double check, that is the method best
understand.
to get.
The only thing I'm asking is if you can streamline that with this group for Helene and have them look at what's going on with Debbie in our community, just to give them a little jump start. Terry and his family are having a lot of trouble getting through things, and they're inundated with, so if we can help them in any way, let me know what I can do.
Yep, absolutely. Will do.
Appreciate that.
I have a question. Gerald has a question too.
Yep. We'll just go around then. Go ahead.
Do you know when the signs come in? Because we were driving down the road, 170 to 278 Saturday. And
Yes.
someone just cut right in front of me and went over that median.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw
Get in
that
that
too.
lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why, were you there?
No,
What
but
happened
I've
to you
seen
there?
people drive over the cement median. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
So
Yeah.
do you know when the sign's gonna go in?
So the
Not
long-term
yet.
signs aren't scheduled till the spring.
Oh,
We're trying to get some interim signs between now and then to help with that.
Okay.
So we're working with the contractor to try to
All right.
facilitate some
All right.
interim.
thanks, Jared.
You're welcome.
There is an arrow that if people pay attention,
Yeah,
but they don't.
Yeah.
But I like the work that was done, so I do want to commend your department. Is there going to be a barrier to stop left turns by Dunkin' Donuts?
Not as part of this project. So this project had a
Just had
finite
that part.
termini.
I believe that's supposed to be a light signalization, isn't it, down by Duncan?
I don't
On the master
recall
plan.
specifically, but it would be included in what was planned for the
For
long-term.
long term.
So, and let me speak to that real quick for a second. So the long-term triangle project, as we all have come to know, that project, regardless of sales tax, is continuing through LATS. So LATS has, I believe, $2.5 million programmed for the preliminary engineering. So to get the project started, Beaufort County is the sponsor, and just like we're working, we have some projects to talk about today that we're doing on behalf of LATS. We are the same relationship for the Triangle project. So that project's going to move forward into design. It will stop once it gets ready for construction, but it will take a period of time before we get there. So that intersection will be planned for in the future project.
And I love that they can't make a left out of Oakity Center. That will save
Thank
some
God.
accidents.
Yes.
Seagrass is the next one. We had 2 of them in a week at
Yeah.
Seagrass and Del Webb.
Especially with the new flow happening from the bypass underneath.
Yeah, I don't know why people are making a left, but they are.
At Seagrass, and Del Webb, there's been questions as far as warrants for signal. At this time, it doesn't meet a warrant. I believe the town of Bluffton was the last one to do a warrant
Yep.
analysis on it.
2 years.
And the recommendation was to do a similar R-cut, that's what it's called, at Oakity Boulevard, at Del Webb. No,
There
that
were
hasn't.
discussions about it being too close to the other intersection light as well. 'Cause
There
legally
there
they have to be
is.
so far apart.
Yeah, you
It's
can have them
close
so
to-
far apart.
yeah,
I believe
both
that offset is fine and sufficient, but again, it's gotta meet the warrant, and DOT's not gonna allow the signal to be installed until it meets that warrant.
Yeah.
But we could put the R cut so that coming out of Del Webb, you have to go right. It's crazy when they try to make a left. And I've
Go
seen.
to right, take that light and do the U-turn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
That
there's a
was
place
the
to
proposed
U-turn.
recommendation out of the analysis,
And
but
I've seen school buses make a left out of Seagrass, which is not a good thing either. Okay, Gerald, you're up.
If I might, let's go back to the FEMA.
Spring.
You talked about the information being readily available on the website and streamlining. I think we, the county, we don't do a good enough effort of actually getting the information out to all the citizens, especially in our rural communities. So we, the county, we need to look at other means in addition to the website and streamlining. Some of our constituents, they don't have access to computers, and so we've got to take other measures to get the information out to them. Radio station, newspaper, media, things of that nature. So I would ask us as a council and as staff, when we get information like this that is pertinent to the entire citizenship, then we take every effort to make sure we get that information out to the entire county.
Yeah, absolutely. We can work with Hannah, our PIO, to come up with some alternate methods other than just online to make sure we get that word out.
I'd appreciate it.
It might even be putting flyers at some of the churches
That's
or
what I
rec
was saying, community
centers.
centers, rec centers, churches.
Because when you don't have internet, none of that comes across you. You don't see it.
Those are great points.
Even if you have internet, you still, who's paying attention sometimes, so we can
Yeah.
do something to ensure, that'll be great.
Yep.
Yes, sir?
Three things. One, the paving that's been done on 172, 78, the seams are quite visible. You may want to have them take a look at that.
Yeah, I've mentioned that to our construction office, so they're taking a look at that.
Number two, is it true that Okeechobee Boulevard South is right in, right out only now, but you can't get to the bulb because that's where they're parking the construction equipment?
I'm not sure on the staging, but the long term, that will be cleaned out, and so that's the intent,
Yes, sir.
is that you do it right out of Okeechobee South and then in the bulb. So we'll work with the inspection crew to make
Actually,
sure
when I
that.
went by there yesterday, there is room to go, there is equipment, but you can go to the bulb out. I actually had to do it.
Well,
You can do it.
we'll reach out with our inspection crew to make sure that
They just have to
it's
be careful.
safe.
Now, as she said, there are people who are in the lane, suddenly realize they're in the wrong lane, and are going over the concrete. I noticed that there is a space between the concrete blocks. Is there something going between the blocks to prevent people from doing that?
No, I believe that space is for drainage.
It's
Yeah.
just-
Those medians will be painted, the edges will be painted yellow when they come to the final stripe.
And it may be something too, we can add some raised pavement markers on the top to help reflect for nighttime purposes.
Okay. And the
Yeah.
final comment is, when you come out of Okeechobee Boulevard north, yes, north,
Mhm.
and it's right in, right out only, you immediately have to get over 2 lanes. You know, there's the little white line with the triangle at the end, where the people are trying to get in, who now know that's the lane you have to go to get on 170, but the people that are coming out have to get over there if they want to go straight.
That's right. That may be something we can look at with some additional signage as well.
That's a problem.
Yep, absolutely. And all these too are, hopefully, a lot of these are behavioral. We have a lot of the same traffic in these areas. And so it's the same as implementing a
time, any
new traffic
change.
circle or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see
Yeah.
driver
The
improvement.
vast majority of the people like what has been done.
I'm glad to hear.
It's easy to
That light at
go
Oldfield
through there.
still freaks me out.
What does?
That light at Oldfield, every time I take
Oh,
that bend.
Oldfield, yeah.
Yeah, eventually you get used to it.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Jared?
Nope.
All right, you're gonna do number 8 then, or are you still gonna speak on number 7? 8 is Defusky Island.
No, Hank will talk about
Okay,
that.
not a problem, just wanna make sure we didn't need to
Absolutely.
move on to the next item. Yes, sir?
No, it's my pleasure to get to introduce you to Colonel Grant. Colonel Grant is going to talk to you about TEAC 84. So earlier this year, committee and council approved the purchase of this device for the detention center. And
yes.
it was well represented. Oh, you're good, come on. I'm just filling the gap. So it was a really great device. The detention center has been working hard to get it implemented. And the thing that I want to tell you about is we funded this and purchased it and then got a federal grant or got a grant to pay for it completely. So that is a great thing for us. Colonel Grant?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of council. So there's an image of the Tech 84 body scanner. The one thing about the scanner, it does not show any type of graphic anatomical body parts or details. And also, it does not show facial recognition. So the dose for the scan is measured in what's called microsieverts. If you go to the next slide. So what is radiation? So it does throw off some radiation. And radiation is nothing more than a bundle of energy in the form of electromagnetic waves. What does radiation, or where does it come from? Radiation can come from the ground, the sun, a light switch, microwave, and even a beer. So when we think of radiation, most times we think about medical equipment like CT scans and MRIs and stuff like that. So most people take in about 1,000 microsieverts, pull it back down a little bit, microsieverts of radiation per year from all man-made radiation sources, and that's excluding medical, like the x-rays. The government only allows the general public to receive 250 microsieverts of radiation per year from body scanners. What levels of microsieverts am I exposed to with the intercept? So if you eat 3 bananas, that's 3/10 microsieverts, eating just 3 bananas. 2 baked potatoes, 1 microsievert. The typical dosage rates in the facility is 2,500 microsieverts for the intercept scanner. Chest x-rays are 100 microsieverts. A round trip from New York to Los Angeles is 45 microsieverts. So the body scanner is less than traveling to New York or going to the dentist or even outdoor activities for 1 week. The dose for the scan is measured in microsieverts, like I said. It does scan the whole body. Different parts of the body have different sensitivities to the radiation. So the dose is measured by the system and is called the effective dose, which means that it takes into account the different sensitivities from the different parts. The only noted medical concern from the actual machine is the 24-hour insulin pumps. And the pumps are made by a company called Medtronics. And it's the 600 and 700 series. So the pumps can be removed prior to the inmate actually stepping inside the scanner. Those are the basic information about the scanner. It's safe, and it's a deterrent for contraband, and it will detect contraband as they come into the facility. We will continue to do our pat searches, have the inmates step inside the scanner, and if there's something noted, then we will go on to the next level of security.
So the scanner, you wouldn't do the cavity search somebody just complained about?
We will not. If in fact we don't detect anything on the body scanner, then we won't have to do the body search.
So is this in effect already or next week or?
We should have it up and running by the middle of December.
Okay, so that answers the question, yeah.
Yes.
Thanks.
Is this for just people being processed or also visitors?
No, just for people being processed.
Okay. Just curious because you said about contraband and stuff.
Yeah.
We can make an exception for you.
I'm not my brother. No, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? All right. I think we're all
Okay.
set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel.
All right, we'll move on to number 8, the Fusky Island Ferry update.
Somewhere.
This is a new topic.
This is just a standing update that would give the goings-on for the last month or so. In the last couple weeks, the operator has been rotating the 2 vessels to train staff on how to switch over on short notices. So if you've heard anything about multiple vessels in a day, that's what that's been. The Manatee 2 is currently in service, while some minor repairs are happening to the Queen Jean, which got finished today, and that'll be back in service this week again as the main boat. We continue conversations and actually had a meeting last week with the Disability Rights South Carolina group that will continue as we work through the process to make sure that we do everything we can to please the riders of the ferry. We had mediation last week on the condemnation of the Melrose side. We've gone to court for the contest action on the Hilton Head side. Additionally, for safety, we spoke about that last meeting. I wanted to, it's coincidental that somebody's actually here. We piggybacked on the Broad River Bridge inspection to conduct an additional underwater inspection of CC Hague just out of an abundance of caution, even though we had some improvements done at the end of last year. But after what had happened in Georgia, we wanted to make sure we took every precaution, and we'll have that report shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Any questions? Thank you, sir. All right, we'll start moving on to some of the agenda items. Number 9, the 2018 1 cent transportation sales tax update. How we doing, y'all?
Good. How are y'all today? Good afternoon.
It was a good day.
It is crazy. I'm Brittany Bishop. I am the Program and Finance Manager for Beaufort County Engineering Department, and with me is Jennifer Bragg with J. Bragg Consulting. Together, we manage the 2018 sales tax referendum. I've got a point.
There you go.
Oh, okay. All right, so the referendum passes a 4-year program, and this is how everything was divvied out. It's $8 million to the US 278 corridors, $30 million to Ladies Island improvement project, and that consisted of 9 projects, and $10 million to the sidewalks and multi-use pathways. We are still collecting a couple ten thousands of dollars every quarter for the referendum. So right now, we are sitting at $146,550,000.
Say that one more time.
Yeah,
So
say
far,
that.
we have collected $146,566.57. All of this is also posted on our website. We keep up every time that we receive a quarterly report from DOR. We make sure that we get that posted immediately. So you could look at all the historical information there. So for the overcollection as a county, we have passed an ordinance.
Could you explain that?
Yeah, that
Help
seems,
us understand.
Why are we still collecting?
yeah.
Yes, we're still collecting. So there are some registers within the county that are still charging the sales
Okay.
tax for the
Yeah,
transportation.
So that's what I was about to ask.
Yes,
So like on the
it's a
business
business
side,
side.
we have to manually go put it in. It's like when the sales tax drops, like I'll use Station 300 for an example, we have to manually go into our program, our POS system,
Mm-hmm.
and remove it or add it.
So once the
So
collection
some people
period
have not
ends,
removed-
Some people have not
SCDOR,
removed it.
Wow, okay.
yeah,
Which is not good.
once the collection period and SCDOR, they notify the businesses, and it's up to the business to turn that off the register. So some are still at 8%. If
So
you,
how does that affect the green space penny? Because I thought it was the same penny.
It's supposed to be the same penny as long as you remove the other one. Because there was a lapse, so this one ended in December, let's just say 31st, and the other one didn't take place until May. So there should have been those few months dropped down to 6%, and the 7% was added again on that start date. And then you have to remove it on the 31st of this coming December to back to 6%. But you manually have to do that as a business.
Can I ask,
Same thing with liquor tax, sales tax, hospitality tax, any of those manually have to be put in or taken off by the business. Like the county doesn't have access to everybody's POS systems to put that in there. It's on the business operated to do that.
could I throw one more question that
Absolutely.
you've probably been asked, but going forward, who's gonna do those refunds for those companies that have just kept paying after they should have? How does
So
that work?
there is no refunds.
No,
The,
because
oh,
it
Go
yeah.
to the consumer.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
you wouldn't know which
Yeah,
consumer.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yes, so
I mean, good for us in that we have additional money to go towards the sidewalks, the multi-use paths, and the Ladies Island corridor traffic.
Does it make sense that we go back to Mr. Dawson's point on getting information to our constituents that may or may not, I mean, how do we do a better job as a council to let them know?
All this information, once again, has been on Beaufort County's Penny website since the start of this program. So all this information is right on there. We do press releases. We can work on some more, keeping people more informed about this specific category. And then we also do quarterly reports on all of our expenditures.
Cool. Hey, this is
And then
something.
when we have a public meeting, we also tell them where to go find information. also.
Exactly.
That's
I believe I
absolutely.
got
So
a letter
sometimes-
when it was removed. We got a letter sent to us like 30 days in advance.
Yes.
So I guess if the consumer sees it's still on there, they should say something.
To the business.
To Station 300, stop charging me that tax.
It's
Yeah.
not me. Promise you that. It's not
So
me.
just double check your receipts when you're out and about all over the
That's literally
county.
where we're gonna be.
Double check your receipts as you're out and about in the county, and if you see something, I hate to say notify them, because it's nice to have a little bit more for the program, but you might want to.
No, the public just needs to know, we're not continuing to do it.
Correct.
It's up to the vendor to stop it.
Yep.
Because, for transparency, we don't want people to think, we're just gonna let it keep running because you didn't pass the other one. So we just need to stay on our vendors. Yeah.
Yeah, so like the
Let me
collection.
make sure I understand. Some businesses are charging 8% instead of 7%, is what you're telling me?
That is correct.
Okay.
But it's not a significant amount of businesses. The collection for the first quarter of 2025 was $15,760.
So it could be literally like 2 or 3 businesses.
Or, yes. So we have, as a council, you have allocated almost $15.5 million to the sales tax program for the multi-use pathways and sidewalks program. So though it says 10 million on here, I didn't want it to be confused. We actually have 25 million for that program. Because we're still collecting, we're waiting to see a couple back-to-back 0 months on the report or confirmation that we're not gonna be receiving it anymore. And then we'll come back to you to allocate. So far, the remainder is 11.1 million to allocate to one of the programs.
Of overage.
Ms. Bishop,
Yes, sir.
just want to make sure that you used the terminology there a few minutes ago that's kind of disturbing. You said, "We are collecting."
The county.
We're receiving it.
We're receiving, yes,
receiving.
receiving, my
Yes.
apologies. We're
Yes.
receiving.
I don't want the people to think
No.
we're still collecting.
The businesses are collecting.
Yes.
The
Okay.
county is receiving, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. So we'll be back in the future to allocate the remaining funds into one of these programs. And Jennifer's gonna give the project status updates.
So this will be
Nice
brief,
catch.
building off of what we did a few months ago. So on the project development, all of the bullet items are exactly the same as they were before, but there's a nice pretty little picture here. This is just a snapshot of the IGA, the intergovernmental agreement between Beaufort County and SCDOT. So I just wanted to build upon how does this play in when we're going through the design process and then into construction. So this document, which is also on the website, is the guiding document for how all of these projects are developed. And then when we enter construction, how they are constructed. Because outside of a couple, being Bluffton Parkway Pathway that's already completed, and a couple of projects over on Ladies Island, every other project is on SCDOT system. So this document tells us what standards to use because we're actually in their right-of-way and/or we are touching their right-of-way. So every time we get to a certain point in the design phase, we're actually sending plans to DOT to be reviewed. This allows them to review the plans for compliance with their standards so that when we do enter construction, they know that they're being built to their standards. So at the end of the day, we can turn it back over to them. With this, on projects, when we go to right-of-way acquisition, they also say, yes, we agree with the plans, and here is your letter so you can go into the right-of-way acquisition phase. When we enter right-of-way acquisition, we're actually in a 2-step process. The county approves any just compensation to the property owners. Likewise, DOT concurs with it. So it's not just the county saying, yes, go ahead and make the offer, but we're also getting buy-in with DOT. That's keeping us in line with the Uniform Act for right-of-way acquisition and the checks and balances in place. There are a couple of projects when we have other additional funds where we may have them involved. Couple of them have been Stewart Point Pathway, or Stewart Point Sidewalk and Depot Road Pathway, where we actually got CDBG funds. So we've actually had Low Country Cog also in there for the approval process. Then when we get to construction, again, they're reviewing the plans to make sure everything is signed off on as far as traffic control plans, pavement marking and signing. And likewise, we're also getting a construction authorization from them to actually go to construction. So there are a lot of checks and balances here, but this document lays out everything, including utility coordination and you name it. So we are complying, which is why sometimes projects may take a little bit longer to get from the initial surveys all the way to final construction plans. All right. This is similar to what we said last time. We're gonna keep it, it's just a good timeline, and this isn't working. So go to keep one more. All right, so where are we since the last time? We had another public meeting. It was on the Stewart Point, let's see here, it's up there. Stewart Point Road sidewalk. So we're going through that virtual meeting for it closed on November 14th last week. So typically we give it a couple of weeks to make sure we don't get any additional comments that were mailed in. Once we can verify we don't have those, we will actually publish a summary and recommendation, and we will respond to all comments. So that one was held. So again, within a couple of weeks, we'll be doing that. So what's going to be upcoming in 2025? Quite a few public meetings. There are a lot of projects that are very close to DOT saying, yes, we agree. If we have right-of-way acquisition, we typically like to have a public meeting prior to starting that process. So the first quarter is probably going to be extremely busy as far as various public meetings. Where possible, we may have a couple of projects tied in at one public meeting. That seems to have gone over well, where people can come out and see a few projects at one time versus multiple trips out to see single projects. Other things upcoming, various projects may be going into construction. Some hopefully closer towards the beginning of the year, some may not be towards the later of the year. Again, that will be dependent upon the right-of-way acquisition and getting permits. And the permits could be your typical land disturbance permit and or if we need a wetland permit. So these are all the projects that should be moving forward within the next year. This is just a general update again of the projects y'all have seen before where they're located. Nothing really has changed. I was hoping we could get a few more here, but again, for the Ladies Island Corridor, middle school, the right-of-way acquisition is continuing. And then, like I said, in next year, we should be moving into right-of-way acquisition for Hazel Farm and Gay and Sunset and Miller Drive West. No updates on the budget, and we will continue to update the budget. So when we get to like the right-of-way plan approval from DOT, we'll get updated construction costs. So this may update the budgets here as we move forward. So the pathways, we've got 14 active projects, and we'll just flip through these next couple. We are in the process of updating the maps. You want to just flip? Right now, these are the original maps. We're looking to update to show which ones are truly funded, which ones are unfunded, which ones are constructed. So that's in process. Yeah, just keep going. These are just the maps. So same thing, as we get to the right-of-way plans or construction, we're updating the budgets as we continue to go along. So that's, I think, all I've got, because I think the schedule, if you flip, there's another page. That's the last one. And then there was a placeholder in case there was any additional update, none from Jared on 278, so that's all from me. Any questions?
Of the 146 million, what's remaining?
We have expended $20,564,657.83.
So about 126 million or 25 and change.
So the budgets are, the overall financial is being updated. It should be published next week.
She knew that question was coming. She already
Yeah.
stood up
Yeah.
before it even happened. That's usually the number one question we get on council is that I'm a firm belief, we had someone speak on the penny sales tax earlier. A lot of people think we blew that money on other projects, and we continue to stress time and time again that we didn't.
It
One
is
of
still
the
there.
biggest, I'll say this because I really could care less what they think of us, one of the biggest problems we had all this was the newspaper loves a good click and loves a good headline and kept driving it over and over and over again. And then they charge them to read it, so they don't even actually read what it says to show that we do have the money in the rest of the article. It is good to know that we actually still have more money than we were supposed to raise still in the account and still completed some of the projects. It's my understanding that the money can only be used for the projects that were listed in the original proposal, right?
On the original ballot question.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, just one last question. Ms. Bishop, how big of a task would it be for you to let each of us know what businesses in our district are still paying that? I know just about every business and person. I'd like to go to them and let them
I think that
know.
would be a question for SCDOR. We don't have that information.
We don't have that?
No,
Okay.
sir.
Thanks. All right. I'm learning. This is pretty good.
Yes,
Go
ma'am.
ahead.
I have a question. I was just asked Friday about the Shad Avenue Alma Road sidewalk. I thought we already had a public meeting on that.
Not on Shannon
On
Alma. We had it on
2023.
Alljoy.
On
Alljoy.
Oh, so it's a different project?
Yes.
Oh, all right, thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
Are
Yes,
these
ma'am.
public meetings, are they the charrette word, or are they like all joy that we did in the gymnasium?
So they're more like Alljoy, where we've
Okay.
got an actual design plans that we're showing with the
And you
exhibits.
actually address the group rather than ask them to wander around and ask questions?
Well, no, it's more informal because what we found is more people are willing to ask a question specifically of a representative one-to-one versus standing up in front of a group of people. So we are there to answer any questions, but yes, they're able to go around, and look at the boards, and specifically, and we've got enough people staffing those to be able to answer the questions.
I know that all joy meeting, no one was too shy to ask a question. Remember, we were all
I
there,
was
Mr.
there.
Moore?
There were
Yeah,
5 of them
Yeah.
overall.
they're
Yes,
not
5. And just something else to point out, you asked the question about how much, it would take. So by resolution, we actually have to give a quarterly report. So we will be doing that all of next year and as the program continues. And then as well, we have to host at least 2 public meetings per project. So we're also doing that
Thank
as
you.
well. We do that about 30% design and again at 70.
70.
So most of these are going to their second public meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before just quickly,
Give me a.
and you may have said this, and I wasn't paying attention, so forgive me if you said this already. The Hazel Farm, Grays Road, and the middle school, are we able, because we do have additional funding now, to complete that project, to move forward with that project?
So Ladies Island Middle School's in right-of-way acquisition right now. It will go to construction. Hazel Farm Gay will have the public meeting. We'll get approval from SCDOT for right-of-way acquisition. We will go start that process. It's projected to go to construction as a funded project.
Good, thank you.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it. All right, we'll move on to one more update, number 10, update in the Hilton Head Island Airport Terminal project. John, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good to be back with you to give an update. This is a slideshow, so there's really nothing I'll tell you other than this will represent about the last probably 4 to 6 weeks worth of construction. So you'll see a lot of the steel going up here. It's been pretty exciting once they were able to get a crane in on site. All the truss work went up real quickly, so.
And this is Hilton Head, right? This isn't the Beaufort one that we approved a couple months ago. This is.
We're gonna get there.
Okay, but I was just making sure that
No,
the
you're
people
correct.
knew.
This
Yeah.
is Hilton Head, right. And so as a refresher, this new construction will contain the new TSA security checkpoint, and a new exit lane from the boarding gate areas, plus all the new boarding gates of the terminal.
How many terminals is it gonna hold?
We'll have 3 gates that have jet bridges, and then we'll have a 4th gate that's a walkout. And then what you see here is some of the sidewalk and road work in front of the new building as well. That'll come up in the later part of the show. It's been impressive as to how quickly they put some of that steel up.
If only we could do our transportation this fast.
Well, there's still a lot more to go.
I know, but this is impressive.
What goes inside the building is gonna take a long time. So once the roof and the skin goes on the building, it will look like it's complete, but there'll be a whole lot more to put inside. So it'll take some time. And again, this is about a $30.8 million project. They're probably about 30% through at this point. And this is some of the crosswalks and speed humps that will be out in front of the terminal. Again, it'll go from being a 2-lane road in front of the building to a 4-lane road with the first lane completely covered for drop-off and pickup. And what you're seeing here, this is from a couple of weeks ago. That's now all been paved as well as of Saturday. So the first 2 lanes have been paved. Oyster shells in the sidewalks. You see some of the curbing being formed there and the new roadway that kind of flares out as you enter the area. That's the new entrance point to the parking lot.
I might have to stop driving to Savannah.
Might. I can't believe you said that. This is the Hilton Head Island Airport. And what you see now, all of that's been paved over the last couple of days.
And that's the extension off the right side there?
Correct. And then American posing for us there. All right, so that's the update on the terminal. I'll take any questions you may have on that if you have some.
Are we on schedule at this point in time?
We are.
Are we in budget?
Contractor Edison Ford is doing a good job. Say again?
Are we in budget?
We are. And actually, we're, the next item, it's a great
Yes.
segue. If you want, we can go right into 11.
Let's do it. Number 11,
Okay.
recommend approval of council of a change order 1 for HXD Terminal Improvement Phase 1 in the amount of $3,336,113 to the existing contract with a current value of $30,898,447.83.
We need a
So
motion and
moved.
second to begin
So
the
moved, yeah.
discussion.
Yep. I'll take that as a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
And a second.
Excellent. Well, thank you. This is one of those good change orders. This isn't an oops. This is a we won more funding. So if you remember a couple of months ago, we let you know that we had received a $5 million BIL grant through the bipartisan infrastructure law. We had applied for that back in the springtime and got that award over the summer. You recently passed a resolution to accept that grant, and then once that grant was accepted, we had the contractors go ahead and price additional items that would have had to be put into the next phase of the project. They were able to bring those into this first phase. So this is a change order that comes with a grant to fund it. So it's an additional, it's an addition of scope items to the first phase of the project.
Do we have any questions or discussion? This could be approved with no objection. We already had the motion,
did that,
Mr.
yeah.
Passament, and then seconded by Mr. Reeds. All right, this will be done with no objection. On to number 12, recommend approval of the council of resolution to accept SC Aeronautics Commission Grant 20-062 in the amount of $1,387,747 for ARW Hangar Construction Project, Site Development. We have a motion?
So moved, yeah.
Motion by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Bartholomew.
All right, so we bounced across the river to Beaufort Executive Airport, where, by the way, yesterday we hosted the South Carolina Breakfast Club, and that's every month there's a group that flies into a different airport to have breakfast and meet. And we had perfect weather yesterday, which has been great. We've been kind of crushed the last several years with bad weather for it. We had 38 aircraft flying yesterday. Sold a lot of fuel and had a lot of great folks come in. We had a food truck on site and they completely sold out. So it was a huge event and great exposure. for the airport. We'll get you some pictures to talk about this very project in support of this, but we had the entire apron full and we had airplanes parked in the grass. So we desperately need to do the hangar project so that we can generate revenue to fix or to do other projects to expand the ramp area and things like that. And so this speaks to the site work, the site development work for that hangar project. And we talked about this at Finance Committee a couple of weeks ago, that we anticipate, in fact, I think either the next day after that meeting, we had just been offered this grant from the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission. But it's a 70-30 grant, which is fantastic. So they provide 70% of the funding, and then we're providing the additional 30 from the ARPA funds that were set aside for this project. So fully funded, and we look forward to getting that grant to work.
Any questions or discussion?
So this is just a site prep, right? This is separate and apart from the actual construction for the elevation of the
That's correct. This is all the horizontal work.
Gotcha.
Up to, and not including the slab.
Gotcha.
Can this be, oh, yes, ma'am.
Where are these private jets coming from, do you know?
These were actually not jets. They were all piston aircraft, so they're all
Oh, really?
smaller airplanes that
they're
came in.
smaller, okay.
Right.
Can this be done with no objection?
Yes.
And I see this approved with no objection. All right, I will ask for a motion for discussion on number 13, and then we'll definitely have discussion on that. Recommend approval of the council to approve a resolution to adopt the Hilton Head Airport Wildlife Management Policy.
I will make that motion.
I'll second that.
In the second. All right, we will have a discussion on this. We're not gonna get into all the nitty-gritties of it all today, but I will be asking for a motion to send this back to staff for us to have more discussion and some of the information maybe we found that Brian has, that just to answer some of these questions so we don't belabor it here. The one statement I will say, I don't know what the policy says. None of us do. I guarantee none of us read what document was just turned in. I would, of course, tabbed it. With that said, though, one of the things that kind of, say, grinded my gears the most was whatever discussion is happening in the back of the work environment. It's not my place, but I would hope whoever is in charge of that, whatever conversations need to be had to have a positive work environment, whether true or untrue, that those conversations would happen. I know that's something that I would want to do. That's something in my area or a place of work, just like I'm sure Mr. Moore would want to do here, which is why we've made changes, some of the changes we've made here at the county. But with that said, I would ask for that motion for somebody to make that, to send that back to staff. if
So
possible.
moved.
I'll second that.
All right, motion and seconded. Do we have any objection or discussion of sending that back to staff?
I just have a question. Are you implementing a similar policy at the executive airport?
Not at this time, no.
Why?
Primarily because there are different standards at those airports, because Beaufort Executive not a commercial airport, so they do not have, they're not subject to a Part 139 inspection, which is one of the inspections that noted the presence of the animals.
Because I know we talked about a wildlife program when we talked about the hangars, didn't we?
That's correct, and it's related but different. That's a contract that we have and we've had over the years with USDA.
Yeah.
And they monitor the wildlife for us. So if we do have a nuisance wildlife, for example, we've had deer out at ARW that have had to be taken by USDA. They take care of that for us, and that's just a contract to put that service in place.
All right, thank you.
And I'll just say, I'm not saying that this is the right policy or wrong policy at all, John. I'm just saying that maybe have the other discussions to see what we need to do to make this the right situation, the right fix for the area. And I'm not saying that Friday's not gonna be relocated. I'm not saying this isn't gonna come back and pass. I'm just saying the discussion of it and the other discussion, the other wildlife that needs to be taken care of there as well. I think that's something we can just work on as staff, just like we did with the passive parks 6-7 months ago. We sent it back just to revamp a little bit, see what needed to be done, and came back with a better product. So, yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I was reading through this, and my mind ran on what you just talked about, USDA that we just passed on about a month or so ago, because of animals and making sure that there's no animals around, excuse me, the airport. When I was reading this here, the first thing came to mind was, were we gonna have a buffer? Because you said no around the surrounding area. So my question was, what kind of buffer? Is it gonna be 50 yards away from the airport or whatever and stuff? And then
That's a good question.
the other question I had was enforcement. How do you enforce this? But if you're just talking about Friday, that's a different story.
Okay.
But, you know, my mind was, you know, how do you enforce this with your neighbors surrounding the airport, because there are wildlife all over the place? And so that was my concern, but I don't know, staff is bringing this forward to us. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't know what more information you are looking for from staff, unless they have a change of direction at this time. I do have a passion for, I mean, I didn't know about Friday, but I do have a, compassion for Friday. I think cats are things that are good to be around the house, whether you own them or not. It's good to have cats around, because chances are snakes and mouse be handled because of those feral cats. And I have some around my house. I don't feed them, but they're there. And so they're getting food from somewhere. And I'm hoping that it's because of the rat population is decreasing. So I don't know. And they're hard to really, particular cats, they are hard to kill or catch. So even if they're ran in front of an airplane, there ain't no way you're gonna have that cat killed, because they have, what I was told a long time ago, 9 lives. I believe that.
I think if I
That's
can
just my
answer,
comment.
I think you asked a couple of questions in there maybe. Number one, this isn't specifically directed at any
I know you can't
any
do that.
specific animal. We
Correct,
had,
right.
and part of what I can provide, I guess, as additional backup is comments that we had on our Part 139 inspection, which is the annual FAA safety inspection, of sightings of animals either near the airport, on airport property, on both sides of the airport, the commercial side and the private side. Bird feeders were one.
That was gonna be one of my questions, are they allowed?
No, they're not, and that was brought up by the inspector, and it was also brought up independently. There was a recommendation through the USDA, who did our most recent wildlife assessment for us, assessment survey, which just wrapped up this summer, and the FAA has that for approval now. But one of their recommendations was to put in a no feeding the animals policy, because they also noticed, some of the, bird feeders and other feeding going on in the vicinity and on airport property. As to enforcement, the county could only enforce what's on county property. We would have to engage with perhaps the town of Hilton Head to understand the safety implications of that. And we don't look at necessarily, if a lot of people don't understand how the airports have to look at safety items.
Sure.
like a cat or like a bird. It's not necessarily that specific animal, it's the chain of events. So for example, in the wildlife assessment, I'll give hats off to Bradley and Jared and the folks at Solid Waste. The survey focused in on the convenience center there on Summit Drive, and that was found not to be a hot spot because of how well it's managed and how quickly the turnover of containers goes. So that was not a hot spot, and they usually are. But we had a couple on the airport where they noticed areas that attracted wildlife. So wildlife attractants are what can get an airport into trouble. And it's the trail. So it could be the first animal that is a predator and leaves something behind for another type of animal that might fly into the airport and could be ingested into an engine of an aircraft. So it's not the one specific item we look at. We have the responsibility of looking all the way down the chain. So that's the basis of this policy. We're trying to do our best to maintain that chain of safety.
And it would be the feeding policy at this time of any kind of wildlife.
Correct.
And that's what I'm hearing you say, which would include the alligators, et cetera, et cetera. Most people don't realize that you just don't do that, but they think they are pets, but they are not. And I think, if you're talking about feeding, I can understand that. One of the things that, like I said earlier, the feral cats that I have around my house, not my house, in my neighborhood, I know I don't feed them. Now, where they get their food from, I don't know. But I told my wife, we cannot, because they were habitat there, but they're still there, so they're eating somewhere. But I don't have as many rats as I used to.
Somebody's feeding.
Somebody is.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
for me, part of sending it back to staff to work on things a little bit more, I think before I can pass anything, and I think you've seen we've been pretty supportive of both airports, trying to move things along. I need more than the resolution and a letter. I mean, if you said there's actual violations that this is going to correct, can you include that in the backup material so we can see the violations and the corrective action that needs to take place? And I think there was a policy that was submitted, if that can be included as well, I guess the federal policy. Yeah, well, I'm saying, but didn't the gentleman, Alex, I believe, hand up something to you with a separate policy? I think there was some.
I think it was something along the lines, if there is a disturbance, there has to be a report filed.
He ended up with CFR.
CFR, okay. Yeah, so I mean, if that can be included as well in the backup material, just justification for it and be able to read it and have a rational basis for it, I think I need more.
Sure, we
to
can
understand what we're
provide
actually
that.
voting on.
Not a
And
problem.
as well as a map, a clear definition of the airport boundaries and buffer zones that we're talking about, because that was a good point that Mr. Clever brought up. So that the people in the area working can actually know what is in the boundaries, if they're stepping in lines, if this is a violation that can terminate a lease agreement, it needs to be clear, defined boundaries, and we need to understand what we're passing. So just basically more information to help pass this along.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think everybody up here is in support of continuing to grow our airport and transportation here in Beaufort County, whether it is Palmetto Breeze or getting people in here, tourists in here to Hilton Head or Beaufort. There's definitely been a unity on that. But yeah, just a couple questions about it to see what we need to do, just like other things that we've removed from an agenda that needs a couple more thoughts or a couple questions. So if there's no other comments, I will ask for a vote. Is there any objection to remove this and send this back down to staff? Time frame wise, I guess, I don't know if that's necessarily going back to your department, John, or back to legal. Were we thinking maybe January would give us a good time? That gives us 2 months. I know we got the break coming up, but maybe shoot for January, February, the latest. That way we don't hold you labored as well, but at the same time, we don't want to drag it out too long.
We can do January, and that'd be best, because the FAA certainly wants to see
I
this.
was just about to ask what the FAA.
They give us timelines.
Are they, is this holding up any type of funding or grants
No,
or anything along those
it
lines?
is not holding up funding, no.
All right, this can be done with no objection? Awesome. That will be sent back then, and then we will move on to number 14. Recommend approval of the council to approve Talbot, Bright, and Ellington work authorization 2119-2301 for HXD Airport Layout Plan Update. Do we have a motion for discussion?
Sure, motion.
And a second, please.
I'll second it.
Tab with the second.
All right, so this is, the airport layout plan is basically a look ahead at the airport for the next 10 to 20-ish years. It will form the basis of a master plan once this is done and approved by the FAA. It's a lengthy process because we look at all aspects of the airport. We look at all forecasts on the commercial side and the private side. There's a public component to this as well, so there are chances for public meetings. But this brings the team together, led by Talbot, Bright, and Ellington, to lead this effort for the airport.
Do we have any questions?
There's a alternative landing areas being considered as well? Is that, no?
No.
I missed it, I misread that or something?
No, there's part of the airport layout plan will be a series of alternatives based on the forecast to find out what potentially needs to be done at the airport over the next 10 to 20 years. And there'll be a series of alternatives that gets evaluated and then kind of scored and decided upon that will provide the basis for the projects that come forward.
Okay, and then, I saw, I put a note someplace, but then I saw somewhere that consideration for the noise, is gonna be also assessed as well.
That's right.
Yeah, and the moving from a C2 to a C3, is that saying that we're getting larger jets in there, or are we accommodating the jets that are coming there now?
No, we changed from a C2 to a C3 when the regional jets started flying in.
Okay, so
So that
we're
was in-
currently having those, different, size jets entering to our airport now?
Yes, they've been coming since 2018.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was it. So we're not looking to bring in any larger jets in there?
Well, that's not what this contemplates. This will look at those forecasts and do
That's what I
its
thought.
best job to look into that crystal ball and see what the airport wants to turn into, yes.
Yeah, you
But-
said 20 years, yeah.
Correct, but we don't know that. This is the vehicle that determines that.
Okay, and just for me, if you were able to, if we were considering larger jets coming there, and I look at the aerial view, the takeoff will actually be in the ocean, right? And very few houses in the flight path.
Well, there's, since it's a single runway, you can take it off at either end depending on which way
Oh,
the
really?
wind is blowing.
Oh, okay.
Yes. The aircraft takes off into the wind, facing the wind.
Oh.
And so you would use either end of the runway. So
Runway.
you're not necessarily taking off heading towards the ocean every time. Sometimes you're taking off heading towards Broad Creek.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
No funding cost to the county, it looks like. The sponsor share is holding the last 25%.
That's correct. The airport has that budgeted.
Okay. Any objection? And I see this done with no objection as well. We'll move on to 15.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
John, thank you so much. Recommend to council approval of an ordinance authorizing the county administrator to execute any and all necessary documents for the acceptance of right-of-way or temporary construction easements on real property associated with Stewart Point Road Sidewalk Project. Do we have a motion? Open this up for discussion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
And the second by Mr. Dawson. Jared, this is just another right-of-way acceptance?
It is, what this is kind of what Jennifer was talking about with the right-of-way acquisition. So, we're entering in the right-of-way phase for Stewart Point. And so we're in coordination with legal because we will be procuring it in the name of Beaufort County. We're doing it via ordinance. And then at the conclusion of the project, we'll collect all the right-of-way into one deed and deed that over to DOT. But, so this is an ordinance that allows us to exercise the right-of-way acquisition process. And then our goal is, this is Stewart Point. In the future, we're gonna come back, maybe January or February for the remaining, so we don't have to do this on each and every one. We're gonna do an ordinance for all the remaining pathways, that has the limits. So.
Do we have any questions, discussion?
No, I would just say that I'm glad to see the project is moving forward as far as right-of-way acquisition is concerned. I think this is one of the part of the 1 cent sale tax that the public doesn't understand or is not aware of. I don't think we did a good enough job explaining to the public the details of what is entailed of trying to get some of these projects done.
Yeah.
The right-of-way acquisition is it really stops the progress of the project until all acquisitions are in hand, and that can take some time.
Yeah, this is 2 miles in length, this project, and we have 38 parcels that we've got to individually negotiate, and then before we make an offer, as Jennifer mentioned, we get a second okay from DOT, then we make the offer, then it's a negotiation. So it is a lengthy process.
It's definitely a process that I've learned a lot from the past 2 years, that's for sure. Do we have any objection of accepting this right away?
I have one other question,
Yes,
please.
ma'am.
On page 101 of the packet, this is it was signed June 28th, 2021. It says, whereas to expedite payment for the right-of-way acquisition process, the county waives the requirement to issue purchase orders over 1,500 and will amend the Beaufort procurement code. Is that still in effect?
Is that the resolution you're reading from?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what that resolution was, inside the transportation sales program, the intent was that 120 million had been authorized, and now it's 146 million, had been authorized for these projects to acquire right-of-way and carry out the necessary plans to develop in these projects. So inside of that, not the entire Beaufort County Procurement Code, that basically here's authority, and there's different levels of authority for the the right-of-way agent, the
I see
engineering
that
director.
part, yeah.
So that's the intent inside of that. So yes, I mean, that resolution is what engineering is using to go for right-of-way acquisition of each
So it would have
parcel.
made sense to me if it says waive the requirement to issue purchase orders under 1,500. This says over 1,500. We're doing it without a purchase order? It's on page 101.
So, similar, we just talked about Stewart Point, there's 38 property owners. We would have to get all 38 of those property owners into our system as a vendor in order to cut the checks. So we don't do purchase orders for the right-of-way acquisition, it goes to the court, and then the court takes care of it. So it's actually an internal wire.
Got it. Interesting. All right, thank you.
Do we have any objection? And this will also pass with no objection. We will move on to number 16. Recommend approval of council resolution for the second addendum to the y'all get me all tongue-tied today. Recommend approval of council of resolution for the second addendum to the MOU with the town of Hilton Head for St. James Baptist Church relocation project.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Reitz, seconded by,
I'll second.
nice segue for you, Mr. Dawson. Do we have any discussion on this?
It's pretty straightforward.
It has been if you've looked into it for sure. Do we have any objection? This will also be approved with no objection. Number 17, recommend approval of council to award a contract to Kimley Horn Associates Corporation for the Intelligent Transportation System Regional Master Plan for various corridors in Beaufort and Jasper County. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. I'm just looking at the cost of this. The project is funding 80% through LATS and the other 20% through Beaufort County.
Yes, it is. This is kind of, I apologize, we kind of made it more confusing than it needs to be from staff, because this is the third time y'all have talked about this project. And this is a learning process on our side, and we'll clean it up moving forward on future projects. This is a LATS-funded project. They said, this is the study we want to do. They had 5 studies at the time, and they had a manpower issue, so we decided to take on a few of them. So we're taking on 3, and they're taking on 2. And what we did initially, we had a resolution that said, here's the funding sources for these different the 5 studies. Here's our local funding source. So we had that come through committee and council. Then secondly, we have to have an agreement with DOT to manage the project as a local public agency, a LPA. So that through committee and council. And then now this is the actual contract with our consultant to execute the work. So all of the funding arrangements and DOT operating arrangements have been already established. This is the establishment of the contract. The funding's already established and in place. It's just a matter of the award of the contract. We have 3 on-call traffic engineering consultants, and we're utilizing that list to issue construction or task orders for these 3 projects.
And not to jump ahead, that's the same situation for the next 2 items.
The
after
next
this?
2 items are 2 additional master plans that are part of the LATS 5 plans.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Bartholomew, you had a question?
I was gonna say, if you can explain to the public a little bit more about what this contract is about.
Yes, so this is ITS, the Intelligent Transportation System. The intent here is that we set up the framework and architecture for what you see as whether it's an overhead reader board or the opportunity for signals to talk with fiber connectivity. We've heard that earlier about the phasing of signals. So it's the framework that sets up future projects if we're going to implement some safety enhancement flow type project. It's going to use this mechanism, and this is how it's going to be set in these locations. So it's, again, just with any master plan exercise, it's establishing where we're going, and then later we'd have to establish a funding source to implement what comes out of this plan.
And this is, if I may continue, this is to not piecemeal the approach, to look at these major corridors and get a master plan put together to help flow the traffic better in the future.
That's correct.
Through the entire county?
Through the entire county, yeah.
Entire region. So this is Beaufort and Jasper, because this is the MPO LATS. So we're looking all the way from I-95 to Sea Pines Circle and all the way from 17 up to 21.
Getting ready for Buc-ee's.
So hopefully some of our constituents won't be 2 hours late to a meeting.
Or they'll know how far in advance it will be if
So,
there's signage.
Mr. Chairman, one thing, you're talking with the folks on Hilton Head then?
Yes, so Hilton Head is part of LAT, so we're just managing it, but through the process with any master plan, we'll have stakeholder meetings and there'll be an open opportunity.
A while back, you talked about having different or opposing technologies between county and what Hilton Head was doing. Has that been resolved?
This will help resolve that. This is a synchronization plan.
Excellent, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, is it, wow, Mr. Chairman.
You're the chairman.
Jared, is it appropriate to take those items together then, or should we take those separately?
Yeah, if you want to, they're all similar. I would almost take 2 out of 3 together because 2 are to one company and 1 is to a separate company.
Okay, I understand. Then I would ask for the motion to take number 18, recommend approval to council of a contract award, Kimley Horn Associates, for the conduct of the US 278 corridor study to be included with number 17 and take them together.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion to combine
I'll
17
second
and
it.
18.
Second it. Do we have any other discussion on number 17 or 18?
I do, if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to call attention to all of council. Remember the meeting we had at Lat's, Logan, where everyone was packed in the room and you were standing?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody asked, how do we amend this, the tip? And no one could answer the question. That's on page 187 in our packet. So I think that's important if anybody in the public's listening, because they wanted it amended. That's on page 187. Also on 189, I had already emailed Jared about this. The State Infrastructure Bank is explained there. I think people might want to see that. Also, the dreaded 5B, all of that's in here. So this is a whole program that people can take a look at. They should.
And just to be clear with people, this is a study.
It's a study, yes.
Yeah,
They
and
should look at
the
it.
program that you're describing is the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning, which is
Correct.
LATS. So we're performing projects on behalf of LATS, but everything that you described is LATS planned studies, planned how they operate.
You know, people don't understand that Latz is not the county. That's where all that confusion came at that meeting.
Just
Yeah.
spell it out. Spell it out. People are listening, spell it out.
Well,
Who all involved?
No, but I'm saying if they go in here, they'll see it's not.
He's talking about the.
LATS is Low Country Area
Oh,
Transportation
okay,
Study.
yeah. I usually leave that to Jared. He
Yeah.
does all the acronyms.
Acronyms?
Yeah.
I think we have a couple more over here.
Just one question, Jared, and since your time here, and we have done a lot of studies and implementation of synchronization of lights, et cetera, have you noticed any improvement in the traffic flow, or are we just spending money just to spend
Well, so
money?
we just spent $8 million on SC 170 short-term project. That project took 2.5 years to develop, from talking about it to coordinating dollars with our partners to actually implementing, and that was unfortunately a quick project. So the studies, what LATS really hasn't had any money up until just a couple years ago, and the reason LATS, just a quick history, LATS was established in 2015 or 2016 because we, as a region, have got to the size that federal mandates that, federal highway does. So the first 7 or 8 years of existence, its funding was allocated toward the widening of US 17 to Savannah, period. So we had allocation, but no money to spend. So now, right out the gate with finally having money to spend, rather than start doing projects, the determination was made to do a whole bunch of plans and studies so we know what projects we should even do. So that's what these 5 studies are helping us do. And so you can see if there's a spreadsheet in the backup documentation, which is their funding plan, LATS's funding plan, and all that is allocated to last year's funding. So we're spending last year's funding, and then from here are moving into more projects, which hopefully are going to come as a result of these plans.
Sure.
Thank you.
And doing these type of studies will actually help set up in the future projects for federal funding, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
And remember last time I asked, why on earth do we have to do a study of the 278 corridor? We're like drowning in it now. Well, in reading this, looking at page, what am I on? 294, it was very interesting to see that they're gonna collect data at 7 to 9 a.m. and 2 to 6 at 55 locations for traffic signal warrants. I think people should see that it's not just, we're not just gonna do 1 or 2 places, it's 55. I was a little surprised to see that. And they're all listed here, so that was important information I think people should see.
Yeah, on 278 specifically, it's about 25 miles, and the same with 170, about 20-something miles. And the intent is if something has an intersection already and is either not signalized, doesn't meet the warrant, and 2, in the future, where we're going to set the signal so we can tell the developer when they build, this is where your point of access will be. So the goal is not to have an access point every 100 feet, is that we actually can maintain the flow on our major arteries, and that's what these 2 plans are the ITS and the 278 and the 170 plan will be accomplishing.
Ms. Tabernick answered my question.
What?
You answered my question
Oh, what was it?
about the 278 corridor.
Oh, yeah, well.
Yeah.
And the more I read this, the more it answered my own questions. It was painful reading though.
Yeah.
295
Thank you.
pages or whatever, but the questions are all answered. And if the public really wants to know, it's really right here.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions on these 2 items, number 17 and 18?
It's very
Can they both be passed with no objection?
Mhm.
And I see no objection. Number 17 and 18 are both approved. Moving on to 19, recommend approval to council of a contract award to Stantec for the SC 170 Regional Corridor Study.
I'll make that motion.
And a
I'll
second.
second that.
Ms. Brown with the second. Total cost is 100% funded by LATS on this one as well. Any discussion on this one?
Maybe Jared could just explain a little bit for the public.
Yeah, this one is similar to 278, and it goes from SC 46 traffic circle in Bluffton all the way up to Boundary Street in US 21 in Beaufort. Same thing there, looking at all the different signals. I don't remember how many we have called out in this task order, but same thing, look whether it's warranted, and then also where do we want future signals, and how do we maintain flow and capacity on that major corridor.
Okay. Do we have any objection, or can this be passed with no objection? And this will also be approved.
Thank you.
Jared, I think you are free for the day, my friend. Thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on to number 20, Wimby Creek Fishing Pier Alternatives Update. How are you?
Good afternoon. So back in the summer, I think in July, we came in and gave an update on the Wimby Creek Fishing Pier. McSweeney Engineers had done some evaluations and gave some recommendations. Bill Barna gave a presentation. So after that meeting, we asked them to do a alternatives analysis for the future of that fishing pier. They have got that report to us, and Bill's going to give a quick presentation on the alternatives, and we'll take any questions afterwards.
Thank you.
Good.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Here to give an update on the Wemby Creek Fishing Pier. And we recently conducted an alternatives analysis. And if you can go, I believe that is the report. Do you have the presentation that I developed? Yeah, there we go. So we came to you in July and discussed the Wemby Creek Fishing Pier. I told you guys about some issues with it. We said, let's look at it, let's figure out what's going to be the best track forward for the site. So we went back, did a little more studying, and what I'm going to do is recap those efforts for you guys and just present our suggested track moving forward. So if you'd like to go to the next slide. As discussed back in July, it's a former railroad trestle. It's been converted by the county into a fishing pier. It has partially collapsed due to a fire that occurred at the end of it. It's a little over 300 feet long. Go to the next page, please. So from our 2019 inspection, it was rated as poor to serious. It's more of a critical condition now due to the failure and continued deterioration. The main issue with it is the foundation. Again, it caught fire. So if you go to the next page as well, you see that it's partially closed down. The luminaires and the gate are busted. On the next page again, you'll see this is the condition of what's happened out there. Structure's caught on fire. There's several problems related with the foundation and the piers. The upper right picture shows where that plate girder, which is about 4 feet deep, where that bears on the foundation, and you can see that there's significant differential movement, and this thing isn't too far away from collapse, in my opinion. So what we did is we looked at several different alternatives that we could do on the site. Everything from what would happen if we didn't do anything to what happened if we rebuilt the same pier, smaller fishing pier, did nothing. I'll run through some of those alternatives. So if you go to the next page as well, the purpose of the alternative analysis is really just to come up for the best option for the site. What's the most cost-effective option for the site? And we were really looking at this from the standpoint of fishability, okay? Because the pier right now is used, somebody's out there every time I've been out there. Very similar to the other fishing piers in the county. There's somebody always out there fishing. And so we were looking at, okay, what is going to be the best for the site in terms of providing people that recreational access to be able to go and catch their dinner or whatnot. So you can continue on to the next page. This is just an overall view of the existing site and what would happen if you didn't do anything. So you can see that just north of the trestle, the trestle is the long structure there. Just north of that is the courtesy ramp for the Wemby Creek boat landing. So just north is the adjacent boat landing, and then you can see the trestle that's left there. So the do-nothing option, the structure is going to collapse, basically, is what's going to happen. It's a liability, so we don't recommend not doing anything. Really, the county has to do something, or we would recommend that the county do something. So the next option that we came up with, if you'd like to go to the next page, is what would happen if we just demolish the pier? Just demolish it and put nothing back in its place. Well, that option doesn't solve the objective. The objective is, what do we do to have recreational fishing access there? And if you take the only structure you have out, you have nothing. Doesn't solve the goal, so let's go look at another option. So option C and option C.1, we looked at what would it cost to rebuild the pier in its entirety. That was option C. We rebuild it like it is now, but do it all out of wood, which is the absolute cheapest way to build it. And then we looked at option C.1, which is, what if we rebuilt the pier the same size that it is now, but we used upgraded materials, meaning materials that were going to give us a lot longer longevity with the pier and a lot lower maintenance requirement. So that was one option we looked at. Another option, go to the next page, please. Options D and D.1 were doing a smaller fishing pier. And in this option, what you see is a smaller walkway with a covered pier head structure going out to a gangway. and then a smaller floating dock that can be used for fishing or for crabbing or for the like. Again, the D.1 is, what if we did the same option, just used upgraded materials to increase the longevity, reduce the maintenance obligation associated with it. And then option E on the next page is we said, okay, well, what if we just improved the existing facility? Let's take the fishing pier out of it, and then we have this joint use facility. We'll slap some floating docks on the end of what we have there, and then those can be used for fishing or for crabbing for the local folks. And even though that is a potential option, we see that there could be a lot of conflict between fishers and boaters, because boaters really do have priority over courtesy docks when it comes to boat landings. And secondarily, it doesn't provide the most stable of fishing platforms. I've noticed a lot of elderly people that tend to fish at the Wimby Creek Fishing Pier, and I think the more stable platform that we can give people to fish there, the better. So the next option we had, which is option E prime, E.1, which is essentially the same option, where we would just focus on improving the boat landing. In this iteration, we would add a couple more floating docks, but we would also essentially level the whole trestle at the end and improve the whole parking area, basically a comprehensive type of a boat landing improvement. Again, that doesn't really solve the objective of fishability, right? Recreational fishability. So on the next page probably shows our alternatives analysis matrix that we came up with, and I know that this is, it's hard to read. I can't even read it here, and I apologize. But at the end of the day, what we came up with that we suggest is a smaller fishing pier structure with a small floating dock, a covered pier, so that people can fish in all weather conditions, and use some upgraded materials, use aluminum, use fiber reinforced polymer or concrete or steel, something other than timber. And we project that if you can do that, we can probably get a 30 to 40 year lifespan out of an engineered fishing pier. And inclusive of the cost of demolition, I believe we were at, if somebody could read the number over there in the blue column, about
1.1 to 1.3 million.
1.1 to 1.3 million, inclusive of the demolition of the existing pier. So,
Which is not much more than doing, the low-cost one.
true, a lot of the options are all kind of right around that $1 million to maybe $1.5 million range.
Does this one, it says floating though. So didn't you say the floating one doesn't give the stability though?
Well, the smaller pier that we had come up with, if you don't mind scrolling back to option D and D.1, yeah, that one right there. So what we have there is a fixed pier. A majority of it is actually a fixed structure with a roof on it that you could fish from, and then a gangway leading down to a smaller dock area that you could crab from. So it would give you the ability to fish during all tides or to crab during all tides. And,
Gotcha.
and yeah, if you had the mobility and wanted to go on the float, you could, but you wouldn't be forced to fish from a float.
And this would be similar to what's at the Factory Creek boat lane, or Factory Creek Pier now.
Correct.
And staff believes there's also an option to combine D&E and do some also site improvements to give more parking, and possibly do that courtesy dock L shape as well, and fit them both in there.
What's the budget source and time frame?
So this is going to have to be a CIP request and AH request. His timeframe as far if we could get the funding, move forward.
Yeah, like saying you got the green light, go ahead, here's the funding, demolition bill.
Probably looking at a year for design and permitting, and then construction would be maybe 6 months. And as you can see, the large part of the cost on there is the demolition. So that goes back to what you say, a lot of the costs are fairly similar through there.
So it's about 2 years out.
Yes.
So does it have to stay closed now?
Yes, ma'am, I would recommend it.
We have a fence on it right now, like halfway down, right?
Yes.
We closed it all from the very beginning out too, so you can't even
Is it?
everything.
Okay.
And one thing that we'll point out is a lot of these improvements now, as it is, the pier itself is above the existing grade, so you have to take steps to get up, so it's not ADA accessible. Any of these options will make it flat with the existing grade, so it is then ADA and accessible to everybody.
So what do you need from us today? I know it's a discussion in
It's just
general, but
information.
is that just us telling staff to start working on finding the funding source for it?
Yeah, today is just for information, letting you know that a request will probably be coming in the future for CIP or AH.
You were supposed to be done today, Jared.
No, this is to hammer home the point, what we need from you guys. So, today, we just need, first hear the information. If you guys like to make this is the option we'd like to, then that helps us define what project budget we need. And then the next step would be, we would take this, and John's right behind me, on A&H tax. This would be 100% an A&H tax project. There is a fair amount of A&H tax that is to be appropriated. And we as staff, we're working to develop a kind of mini CIP specifically for A&H tax expenditure, which would be inside of this fiscal year. And that would be coming pretty soon, John. Next week. So if you guys have a desired layout, then we can fold that into a next week finance discussion as part of this is all the different A&H tax projects we
Well,
intend.
that was gonna be my question. Is this a tourist destination?
No.
I'm just throwing it out on the
No,
table.
it's not a tourist destination, it's a community,
It is
Could be
absolutely
both.
qualified for A&H tax dollars,
Yeah.
without question.
It does?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can tell you,
Yeah.
when I go to Georgetown or anywhere, I find the closest one off the highway, and this would be,
Right.
if I was looking at an area to come, I would come to something like this.
So,
Fishing trip.
so next week at the Finance Committee, staff will be coming forward with A&H tax proposals of options of county projects. Like we talked about beginning in January, February during strategic planning, was the use of some A&H tax dollars for these county projects. We updated our ordinance, we submitted and approved A&H tax budgets with the county projects' purposes. And the next thing that comes, and we did the policy, and then what's last is as a resolution of those county projects, essentially buckets of money that will come forward for Finance Committee's discussion.
Discussion, yeah.
And then we'll have a funding source for some of these projects.
I'd like to comment on, if I could, Mr. Chairman. It is currently not a tourist attraction because it's closed off.
Oh, no, I meant when it was still in life.
But when you look at a place like the Broad River, it is attracting a lot of people from other places coming to the Broad River to fish. And this would be a nice place to fish too as well, but it's scary. I wouldn't want to go there, and I was gonna ask the question, where do the locals fish from? Are they fishing off the boat ramp, or they're sneaking up on the pier when you go there?
There's probably a little bit of both of that.
A little bit of both, huh?
There's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I'm sure people
That-
are around that.
Don't put them on the spot like that.
Yeah, that pier really scares me, and I think it's a good place. It's out in a good channel. I mean, it's a good place to fish. It would be.
I don't fish.
And I've been told a lot of duck hunters use this landing as well, and it's right next to Nemours, it's right there as well. So there's other options that for tourism as well, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Passman?
Yes, did I hear you say preferential would be a combination of D1 and E?
Probably D1 and E.1. It'll give option to do some site improvements to add some additional parking, and then also still allow that courtesy dock for the L shape there, and also give the fishing pier, so, yes.
I would prefer the E1 option. It ties into the floating dock at the boat ramp, and it eliminates the dangerous structure that is there now completely. And it says you lower the grade level so you can add additional parking there, right?
Yeah, and we could look at lowering that, or we could even potentially do some sort of wall. There's grade separation now because of the old rail bed, so we could add a wall and expand the parking both ways towards the middle and add more parking.
We definitely need more parking, but we also need a, up-to-date fishing pier as well.
Yes.
And I like I like the E1 option.
Yeah, and for, the combination, if we did some sort of hybrid of D and E, we estimate it would be, 2 to 2.5 million would be the total cost for design,
You don't
removal of the
wanna
old
do
one
D,
and new one.
you only wanna do E, Gerald?
Well, as staff has recommended,
While he's looking
Let me
on
give you
that, can
some
I,
more information on that combined option. So on the fishing pier, as you're describing, if we combine D and E, so D's being this one on the screen here, in this scenario, the path on the bottom is in its raised format. But we can do some site work and add some additional parking up there. So if you're going to fish, you're going to the bottom driveway, and we can add some parking up there with some site work, and if we have to put a small wall between that and the boat ramp. And then the E option, and there may be an opportunity to either connect those floats and kind of make it a horseshoe. We can continue to play with that. But so that option gives a little bit more parking to the boat landing, and then more docking area for the boats. When you're leaving the boat, you can tie your boat up while you go park your car. And so if you combine the two of them, you add parking to the fishing pier, and then possibly a little bit more parking for the dock, for the boat landing, and you get kind of the best of both worlds. It comes at a little bit more site work expense.
okay, sounds good, sounds good.
yeah, I was gonna say right now, obviously, we're not picking exactly what we want today. There's a lot still to go into it. But the direction that we have to give you is basically how much funding do we want you to target to use for this or access to. If we are, can we go back to that, the one with the numbers broken down? I wanna say it was at 1.1 and 1.3 is the one that was recommended.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say was, obviously there's gonna be changes, gonna be hiccups we run into, but can we plan to try to shoot for something around the 2 million range and see what we can come up with? It's not at the high end, it's not at the low end, but it might be able to give us the best of both worlds with the extra parking, a stable pier for them to fish on, as well as maybe expand the boat landing area. I mean, I don't know if we'll be able to reach it, but if that's a way we can target that goal to best use our dollars. We're already in this project, we're already gonna have to spend close to 800 on demo. We might as well see what we can do with that extra 1.2 million to get that done.
And create
I think what
longevity.
we can do with the $2 million is come back and put that to paper and provide a plan, and say this is what $2 million will get you. So
Like I said, that's where I stand on it, where everybody else does, but I mean, it's just that nice range there to be able to maybe meet the best of both worlds, like you guys suggest. If it's possible, I don't know.
And like I said, my thought is if we're gonna be doing it, let's do it the last. Go ahead and spend the money on the front end and make it.
Well, one thing to offer that our goal is, we have the boat landing master plan, and we're going to be bringing to you some implementation plans, hopefully with budget and strategic retreat coming up. But our goal is to make them look like Factory Creek as our model. So whether that's all in one or in a phased approach in this, that would be our plan for this boat landing and fishing pier, that whatever we do here is the same in the northern part of the county as it is in the southern part of the county. And it may be a phased approach to make that all fit, but that's our goal. And then you guys can tell us otherwise as we develop that, but that's sort of where we're trying to take it.
So obviously, the ideal is D1 and E1 as a combo.
Combo. Yeah.
Whether or not you can get that for $2 million, okay, that's the magic you're gonna have to come up with. Or, okay, this is what it's actually gonna cost, and then council makes that decision. Okay.
You guys need anything else from us today? I know it's just discussion, but hopefully it gives you enough leeway to.
Let me try to
move forward.
summarize and see, make sure that we understand our assignment. So we're going to kind of meld D1 and E1 together, and then put some more pen to paper what we think that cost is, and then we'll come back to that. If we think that's something that's appropriate all at one time, or at one point, we can make that decision at later, and we would bring that back through the A&H tax process or any other funding process, whatever that may look like. But we can go back and put pen to paper and see what that alternative would look like. And
Sarah, can you put the numbers back on the screen real quick, please? Sorry, not to interrupt, I just wanted to see it real quick.
it doesn't include if I'm correct, Brian, this is really focused on the pier and the build out, not so much the site work numbers.
Yeah, E includes site work to grade it flat, but not to do what we're talking about with the wall and separate it. But yeah, so D is just for the pier itself and not any site work.
That's where I got the 2 million from, was I took those numbers and I was like, was I that far off with the 2.5? Because I was looking at it, I was like, all right, well, demolition could be, I'm just gonna say 750. So you're talking about another 400,000, the difference of the project. That's where I came up with the round 2, was another 700,000 into it. But yeah, whatever you guys think we can put together for us to start wrapping our heads around. We have the retreat coming up and then move forward. But yeah, I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, the only, I don't have a problem with what you're saying, but I'm listening to the staff, and staff has other boat ramps that they gotta consider, so I would just say be very prudent with the 2 point whatever number, because you do have other boat ramps that needs to be corrected as well in the county, so.
You're right, and so with part of that mini CIP with A&H tax, we have, staff's got 3 or 4 projects that we'd like to propose. There's other Parks and Rec projects, and all of that will be evaluated. We'll put all those projects together and provide staff's recommendation, and then obviously council or committee will provide feedback. But there are about 3 or 4 specific ones that we have identified now that we'd like to attack.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
One's on Ladies Island, maybe 2?
Yes.
All right.
Forget all about Bluffton. All right, I appreciate it, gentlemen. I think that's all the questions we have for the sense of discussion, at least. If we have any more, we can get back to you at a later date. Move on to number 21, then recommend approval of the council to authorize the county administrator to enter an agreement with Dominion Energy for the relocation utility facilities in conflict with the Ladies Island Middle School realignment project. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any questions for this discussion? I think it was pretty clear in the documents, but just make sure. Can this be approved with no discussion? Or no objection, sorry? All right, it's getting tongue-tied now, here we go. This will also be approved with no objection. Number 22, recommend approval to council of a task order for J.H. Ayers for the Bay Pines Drainage Improvement Project. This will also be funded, it looks like, through one of our accounts. That's what was gonna be my only question on it. Do we have a motion to open this up
So
first?
moved, please.
Motioned by Mr. Reeds, a second
I'll second that.
by Ms. Brown. What is the funding source on this?
This is our stormwater fund.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this for him?
No, but I just want to make a comment, if I may.
Of course.
And I've talked to Mr. Harriet about this already. One of the problems that you cited in doing this work is that these culverts are different length. That is happening all over Beaufort County, because people are putting in their own private, and it's causing all kinds of backlogs of water movement. I just wish that somehow we can start looking at addressing this in a more professional way, in a more uniform way moving forward, because coming back to replace and to make it work costs us much money, even more money, than if we somehow made sure it was put in right the first time.
Yes, sir, I understand that completely. Yep, I understand. This is a project that was put in when Sea Pines was being built. So this was put in well before the county had even any interest in it, so it was kind of already there.
But no, what I'm saying is that the problem exists now all over the county, because individuals now are putting in their own driveways and stuff, and they're not adhering to specs.
So we do have a little bit better inspection plan now that we kind of go out and we actually, so when people submit their encroachment permit now, I guess kind of in the past it was kind of done, on handwritten paper, and It wasn't really tracked very well, but we do have a place, in place now where you have to go in electronically, put in your encroachment permit. We have an encroachment permit person that goes out, looks at the encroachment permit, makes sure that it's feasible to put it in, and then after the work is completed, they'll go back out and inspect it to make sure that it does meet the requirements.
So that's being done at this time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just one quick thing, Mr. Harrod, and the entire stormwater team, I have to commend the work that's been done at Bay Pines. Bay Pines is in my district, and for many, many years, they've been overlooked, and how that happened, we don't know, but that is in the past. But the work, to my colleague's question, each of these drivers are gonna be done and fixed up to the point where they're all uniform. We talked about using Bay Pines as a model for stormwater going out. So, again, what a team effort and what a lot of work. I was just in Bay Pines this weekend, checking on things, and it is a major task that they're all doing, and I wanna thank you all very much for that. Those people are pleased. And to further your point, the Hall family asked for a second culvert. And what they're doing is we're taking the lead from county. They're not gonna do anything until it's directed by your team as to what it would cost extra, or if anything, before they do anything. So this is a good communicational thing, and we've done a lot of good work together, so it's nice. Thank you.
Any other discussion? This will also be approved with no objection, and I see no objection. Thank you, Mr. Harriet. Our last item, number 23, recommended council approval and ordinance authorizing the county administrator into a lease agreement with Mitchellville Preservation Project Corporation for Suite 134 and Suite 142 of the county-owned office building located at 539 William Hilton Parkway on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. That was a mouthful. Do we have a
So
motion,
moved,
please?
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank
A
you.
second?
I'll second it.
And a second. This is just tidying up some loose ends, I believe. This is already being in use, and we're correct?
Yeah.
Yes, I gave Sarah a map of the building if you want
Yeah.
to look at it. So, yeah, Historic Mitchellville, the Mitchellville Preservation Project, or Historic Mitchellville Freedom Park, Mr. Ahmad Ward is actually here. Visited with him last week and measured the space. They've been in that building for years. In the front 134 suite, it's actually 3 rooms that make up about 390 square feet. And for years, they've been trying to get another room. There's a very small room. I went down and measured it. It says it's 101. It's under 100 square feet for their finance director. It hasn't been used in years. But we realized that we had not adhered to our lease policy and had nothing on paper. So that's why we've put together a proposed lease where if you look at the policy, there's a kind of off-the-rack rate for full price. For nonprofits, we can do a 50% rate, and then you as council, committee, and then council can also determine if you want to do it for a nominal rate, which is what we put in the lease for your option at basically the $1 a year type of situation.
Yeah. I believe this is, correct me if I'm wrong, I know we worked on this, I think it was 2 summers ago. Brittany brought this forward.
Right.
With cleaning up a lot of our lease agreements throughout the county, and we're still finding some of them. So glad we got that one cleaned up. Good job by Brittany and her team over there too. Is there any objection to approving this, or any other questions?
Just one thought that I want to throw out. This came as a result of Mr. Moore and I taking a quick trip to see Mr. Ward. And, you know, it's been on the books for a while. We just, I want to commend you, Mr. Moore, on getting this, fast forward, and Hank, you as well. But, Mr. Ward, do you have anything you want to say to us with this? And please. We enjoy working with you, and we listen to you, as you could see.
I appreciate that. No, just very quickly, we just thank you for supporting getting this done. We're just trying to expand. As our project begins to expand more, we had to bring some more people in, so we're just thankful for the agreement that we've had with the county over these years, and we appreciate the opportunity to gain a little bit more space.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Hank, how much more open space is in this building? Because I know somebody else was asking.
Let me get my glasses.
Okay, glasses are good.
So we have, I'm going to quote some rooms that are open. 300, 400 in the front right where the treasurer was.
And the treasurer's not planning to go back? We can't
Not
offer
in
the
recent history,
services.
in discussion. There
That was
was
what?
370 where the auditor was.
Yep.
There is two more 140 square foot rooms on that same hall that's available. There's some flex space, and then the probate judges in the back and in the front, and then we have some offices that are used for storage. But I'd say, we have to play back what I just said for recording, but there's several hundred feet, there's several rooms that are available on that hall and also in the front of the building.
Can I follow
Got
up with Tab, what Ms. Tabernick's saying? Prior to COVID, and Mr. Moore, you can maybe address this as well if you like, but prior to COVID, there was a number of other functions taking place there that are now north abroad in Bluffton or even Beaufort. My thought is that if we can have some discussion down the road to figure out some of the key functions that took place there, the elder population predominantly lives in Hilton Head, you know that, or in that 12 miles.
Say Sun City.
Well, yeah, I'm with you.
Thank you very much.
I'm with you.
Yes, we are.
So what I'm trying to say is that there is a lot of questions still about returning some of those services.
Right, and I can tell you in the back of the building, there's Veterans Administration, there's probation and parole, there's different things, but I know you're saying that front portion that was auditor and treasurer
Yeah.
is really up to those auditor and
To those
treasurer
officials.
operations. And they really have to go together, so one can't go without the other because they function
I
together.
just threw that out there to provoke it, yeah.
You certainly did, but, you know,
Mr.
that's
Chairman.
good, though.
Why not?
That's a good thing.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Can we get some type of definitive answer from the auditor and treasurer if they plan on going back there? And if not, can we release that space and get somebody in there to utilize?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree.
this has been, I mean, we've been trying to work something out for over a year now.
This is
Couple
Mid-Island,
years.
right?
What's that?
This is Mid-Island?
Mid-Island.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's good space, it's just sitting there not being used, when it could go to a community function that can benefit the community. I mean, if they're not gonna use it, they need to release the space.
But the benefit to the community would be the auditor and treasurer
And I-
there.
And I agree with you on that, but if they're not gonna use it, they don't need to occupy the space.
Even if we go back to a part-time schedule, not even full-time auditor treasurer, that would help our people, quite a few people on Hilton Head. So again, you were there. If you want to bring up anything, by all means.
I mean, it's a long way to go all the way to the government center in Bluffton if we don't have this opened,
As elected officials, they determine
where they are.
what
I
they
know.
need, where they need it.
I
Right,
understand
and then
that.
that is also a discussion, I think, that has to be had with them. It's not really a decision for us to make up
Right,
here.
Right.
I
Correct.
think
Yep,
people have
understand.
said their
Hank,
statements they
before you
feel,
leave,
but those are conversations that they need to have.
Agreed. And not a political question, is Clemson still in there?
Clemson.
I'm not sure, yes, in that front, yes, but not every day.
Yeah.
No, but it's still in
They
there.
have a space in the front left side, yes.
And I
Like
agree.
the University of Clemson?
The agricultural.
That's right.
The Clemson Extension uses it sometimes.
Like, if Clemson's there, Miami should be there.
There we go.
With that said, this is.
Mr. Chairman, 1 second. Mr. Moore is going to say something.
I was just going to respond to the question about the assessor, I'm sorry, the auditor and the treasurer. We could certainly, something we'd look at, but there would be budgetary implications with that. So that'd be something I would recommend we would consider during the budget process, were it to come forth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And can this be approved with no objection?
Yes.
And I see no objection, and with that said, this meeting is adjourned.
Yes, the,